Hello, I'm Dan, and this is Dan Explains. Are you a Christian? Do you believe in the Big Bang? Evolution? That man landed on the moon? Or maybe even that the Earth is a sphere? If you answered no to any of these questions, you might be a science denier. I've done a video on how many people are science worshippers because they'll believe anything as long as its so-called scientist wrote a peer-reviewed paper on it. But yes, sometimes the science is actually settled. When it is, it doesn't do anyone, especially other Christians, any good to pretend that it isn't. Let me explain why. First off, I'm not going to cover why or why not any of the topics I mentioned in my intro are settled. I can cover those in other videos. In fact, some would take more than one video to cover. Some definitely shouldn't, but people somehow like to make a mountain out of a prairie. Now, I've done quite a few videos on how science and Christianity are compatible. However, for the most part, I made them towards the beginning of my channel, and they can be pretty cringy to watch. Besides, back then, I only had maybe 20 subscribers, so I thought I'd revisit some of those topics I covered earlier. But you can still go back and watch those videos if you like. So, what is settled science? There is some science that certainly isn't settled, like what causes gravity, as amazing as that sounds. From a statistical standpoint, it would probably be the point where the vast majority of studies that look at that aspect of science agree, and there's only an occasional study that disagrees. Although, I quite frankly disagree with that assessment, or anytime someone came up with something revolutionary, scientific progression would just come to a halt. It does sometimes happen. Gregor Mendel was long dead by the time the rest of science caught up with his meticulous studies on genetics. What's my point? There's always exceptions, so we have to pay attention. I think the science is settled once a large number of us are working with it in our everyday lives, and don't even realize it. For instance, climate change is a settled science. The climate is changing. There is no doubt of that. But anthropogenic, aka human-caused climate change, isn't nearly as settled. Simply because we haven't been looking for long enough, and we certainly don't have any apples-to-apples situations in the past to compare our studies to. Many people reject certain scientific ideas out of hand because they think it contradicts their own interpretation of the Bible. First off, who died and made you the magisterium? Secondly, if you have to reject science that's so settled, God would have to be in on the conspiracy, so he could literally suspend reality for you to make a phone call or just drive to the grocery store, then maybe it's your interpretation of the Bible that needs to be reassessed, rather than the fundamentals of reality itself. Many things that are scientifically proven actually help to point out what is and is not true when it comes to interpreting the Bible. The first creation story in the Bible actually takes less hand-waving to match with the current scientific understanding of creation than it does with the second creation story that follows it in chapter 2 of Genesis. Yep, in case you missed it, there are two separate stories of God creating man in the Bible. This, of course, doesn't mean one of these stories is wrong, but it can help guide our understanding of them. I'm not saying that we need to interpret all passages in the Bible as metaphorical if they don't seem to fit science. On the contrary, there are many miracles presented in the Bible, and many happen, even today, that science can't explain. Whenever someone hits you with a scientific explanation that for this or that in the Bible, if it's not contrary to faith, surprise them, and then be willing to at least humor the person. If they're actually able to talk to a Christian about Christian ideas, rather than just getting shut down, they could get more curious about them. And, miracle of miracles, maybe they start to believe in them. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please press the like button. Subscribe to my channel and ding the bell to get notified when I post new videos. Also, please support me on Patreon, link in the description. The more people support me, the more time I can dedicate to making videos like this one. So, until next time, have a great week.